Welcome to part 2 of the Malik Show. I'm so glad that you have came to see about us. And yes, we are live and here. Part 2 of the Malik Show with the one and only Miranda Sanders. Miranda, welcome back. And it's part 2.
Yes, I'm ready.
It's part 2. Well, in the first segment of our show, we have talked with Miranda on childhood. We talked to her about her, well, she's a New Yorker. Hey, I got to put my thumbs up with that. But born, great state of New York. We talked about her childhood. We talked about the transition of her moving to Maryland for college and even meeting some of the greatest gospel artists and all. But now for this part 2, we are going to talk about KADESH. And that is this beautiful clip that is behind me right here. But before we talk about KADESH, we're gonna get into the history, we're gonna get into the everything, but I want to play at least 2 videos of KADESH performance, and I'm going to start with clip 1. Wow. I enjoyed that
I forgot all about that.
Well, if you don't mind, well, like I said, we're going to get into KADESH. Matter of fact, this is part 2, so we're going to ease and take our time. But I want to play one more video, and then we're going to get into it. Here is part 2. All right. Well, those are the 2 videos. We're going to play some more and everything. And then well, I tell you what, let's go back, producer, to KADESH actual pic. There we go. Perfect. Now, Miranda, let's talk about KADESH now. First question I want to ask is, where and how did KADESH come about?
Where did it come about? A couple years ago, I've always had the idea of wanting to do a youth and young adult ministry choir outside of church, because I realized that in this dispensation, you don't have too many youth choirs that are on like a national platform. Mm-hmm. I was fearful of doing it for many years. So in 2015, I was actually, it had to be like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was up praying, mm-hmm. and it just turning it over in my head. And I asked God, about forming the ministry, mm-hmm. Music ministry or what have you, well, at the time, I didn't know what the name was going to be called, But in prayer, I was in the book of Genesis, and I was reading about the mantle of Aaron, and just how the life of a Levite is, and different things like that. And musically, it's just always some that has been a connection with me, like just the Levites just kind of coming together, but the youth, like the youth and young adults in the current millennium, a lot of them don't want to sing anymore. So I was like, let's just kind of I wanted to do an outlet for them. Some of them are not as busy as in churches, or some of them might not even be in church. So let's do Kadesh. And actually, I got the name through prayer. And it was just something trying to raise the standard of holiness on the platform of music in the musical industry. So Kadesh, the meaning means to be holy, to be set apart, to be sanctified. It was just something that I didn't want it to be a typical youth choir or just a music ministry. So I put the auditions out there. Actually, on the first audition, it was actually a 2-day audition. The first audition, I think something like 6 people came out. The next one, it was probably like 5 or 6 people that came out. And honestly, I started Kadesh, it was like maybe 15 or less, but most of the young people from my church, they got wind of it, and they were like, oh, you're doing this? Okay, we're coming. They all auditioned, and they started with me, and from there, just kind of expanded.
Wow. Well, here is the next question, and then we're going to go to another clip. Let's talk about as far as the troubles and stuff. And what I mean by the troubles is, have you ever, like, my thing is this. How was, people supporting? Was it hard doing pretty much everything by yourself? And not only that, how did you pretty much basically get along with everybody? Or, how was
You
people's
mean in
attitude?
terms of the choir members
That, and how
and
was
the
people's attitudes and, all that kind of.
outside? You talking about outsiders or inside of
Well,
the?
people that was coming to auditions and people.
Oh, the great thing about Kadesh was, and I loved it to this day. To me, it comprised of individuals who had no name to anybody here, any claim. Most of the times when you're talking about groups, people jump on like the hottest things, whatever's hot, So honestly, with Kadesh, it was like a bunch of young people that nobody knew. So it was like starting or fashioning them, God fashioning them to what He wanted them to be. Now, as far as us coming together as a unit, it was great. It was really family oriented, and I loved it. Like we were really a family unit, loving the flow of God. You can just see it through the members of Kadesh. Now you're talking about inside, as far as like me starting it. I have a good team. Kenneth Shelton, he's been with me every step of the way, like working like musically, and then the manager that stepped in at the time, Lamont Shelton, which is Kenneth's brother, like we just started to form a chemistry, and it was just, Kadesh, the members of Kadesh, when they were a part of the ministry, it was like we were really family. We're family oriented. Now, opening up to others that came after the fact, because you have those who start with you.
Exactly.
You have those who start with you. They know the ropes. We're all flowing. We're all getting along, and then there's no issues. But again, when you have
Outside people.
you have outside people that inquiry, like people started seeing us like, where did they come from? Like, who are they? Like, who is this girl? Who is this? Because, you know, people didn't know my age. They thought I was like a little girl or whatever. Who is this person? Like, where did this girl come from? And these young people, whatever, they're on fire for the Lord. And every time Kadesh will open their mouth, literally, I was always grateful because the Spirit of God would move. So it created a buzz, you know, we had a buzz going, and then people would come and, oh, they're young or whatever, kind of like underestimate who they were. But then there's no denying that it's almost like David and Goliath type situation. You know, you have this Philistine who's a giant, and then you have these little kids. That's what people would refer, like these little kids singing or whatever. But the God that was with us, or that's with us, was mightier than anything. So they opened their mouths. It was more of the power of God than anything. So outsiders, for me, was not really an issue. It's either you're going to be a part or you're not going to be a part, because this is about a family ministry. And that's how I've always treated Kadesh.
Awesome. Well, let's play, ladies and gentlemen, another clip of Kadesh performance. Producer, clip number 3. Awesome. Well, you know what? We have talked with Miranda on the upcoming and bringing of Kadesh. Now, these last 2 clips, we're going to show you of some big stages Kadesh has been on. Producer, clip number 4.
Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on!
And last but not least, we're going to squeeze all this in.
It's because of him that we live and we move and we have our being. So we're just excited to praise the Lord tonight. Can y'all put your hands on it like this? Stand on your feet right here. Come on, y'all. Bring out the millennials up right here. Say, Lord, ancient. Ha! Put your hands on it. We give your name. Ha! We worship. We worship. Come on, Zion. Put your hands on it like this. Say, Lord, ancient. Ha! 'Cause he's worthy. We give your name. Ha! We worship. Anybody excited about the Lord Jesus? Come on, Kadesh. Right here, that's where you want God. Anointed King. And you will reign eternally. Even with the three we worship. We worship. Come on, Kadesh, say, no greater one to be extolled. But you seated high. I am above. We worship.
All right. I can just clap. But those are all the clips of Kadesh, and let me say, I enjoyed all of them. Now, during the commercial break, we're back with Miranda Sanders. Now, Miranda has two of Kadesh members behind. So, Miranda, if you, well, y'all, let me see. We're going to try and get this camera working. Cameraman, we got two of the members. We want them to be interviewed. Miss our producer, make sure they can see. Well, y'all kind of, well, hold up. I tell you what I'll do. Y'all, one of y'all sit right here. We're gonna do things a little differently.
Unorthodox.
We're gonna do things a little different here. Okay, so if you would give your name and everything to our show, and what do you do for Kadesh?
Hi, I'm Tiara. I'm a soprano in Miranda's alma mater.
All right. And we'll get you to come and squeeze right here. I'm going to go on this side. So we're going to do things a little different this time. Oh, there we go. So if we can get your name and what do you do for Kadesh and everything?
My name is Melvin. I'm a tenor, and I also style Kadesh.
Come on here. Yes, we got a Mr. Fashion with us. Yes, indeed. Well, as I'm going to just be back here. If our producer, okay, I guess they can see me. They can't see me. Well, I'm going to do it like this. There we go. But anyway, Miranda, let's say Kadesh has had a journey. I mean, those 3 videos, the first video was at Refreshing Spring, Church of God in Christ. The second video was at the Stella Awards in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the last but not least was at the Spirit of Praise. Kadesh has had just a awesome road to success.
Do you want me to answer to that? You want to speak on that?
Yeah.
For the last 3 years, this journey has been amazing. Literally starting with the amount of young people that I started with, and just seeing the platforms that God has put us on. I often tell them I don't even realize how many things that we have done, but our life has literally been in a whirlwind for the last 3 years. Like sellers, and it's very hard nowadays to move choirs too. So that's a lot in and of itself, and not to mention
Well,
young
speaking
people.
of which, I want to squeeze this in here while we're 7 minutes in. If our producer can just go through some albums and some, yes. That's one of the main things. As we see, you are on the flyer with the great Vincent Bohannon out of Brooklyn, New York, along with other. We have Eric Waddell and Sean Tillery, and of course, Kadesh is with that producer. You can just scroll. Kadesh has been moving. I see fellow brother in Chester Burke and Kadesh, and I see that great lineup. Miranda, that's a nice young picture.
Yes.
Wow, that's so young. And Vincent, that's young. Wow.
I'm still young.
You look like a teenager. Well, we're going to keep scrolling. Kadesh has been busy. And us choir days with Sam Roberts. He was with us 2 months ago. Sam was with us. And, that's choir days. And, oh, yes,
Choir days was
I definitely
amazing.
want to talk about this. The Steeple Awards. Let's talk about that real quick.
The Steeple Awards,
Mm-hmm.
it was one of the first award shows that I guess reached out to us.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Atlanta, Georgia. We went, we voted
Mhm.
and everything. Although we didn't win, they
Mhm.
had us in the category with James Hall.
Mhm.
Come on, he's like, we were in.
Oh.
That's my professor.
Mhm.
Okay, he's one of the greatest. So. Yeah, but it was a good experience. It was just something I wanted us to do to get us acclimated to that kind of atmosphere and that stage, So it was fun. We had a lot of fun when we went, and we also went. Besides that, we went to the Bloody Wind tour too.
Oh,
So that
oh,
was
that's,
that was in Atlanta with
that's the
Ty.
Charles-
No, that was with Ty Tribbett.
Ty Tribute.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we went to both of those while we were there. So it was great. We had fun. We had a lot of fun when we went.
I'm glad you had some good fun. Well, let's scroll on to the next picture. What else is after that? Oh, we'll talk about that last. That's not important right now. Let's scroll to the next. Well, then might as well get that information. That's for Christmas, y'all. Come tune in Christmas time. Now let's scroll on, producer. Oh, there our logo. Well, if I can take my chair, my legs kind of didn't hurt. But I appreciate you all coming on and stuff. And might I say, y'all just make Kadesh excellent. And that's y'all stylist. He make men's suits.
He can find them. He
I'll be
finds
getting you
he
information.
finds some good finds and stuff.
Well, Miranda, we are 4 minutes into our show, but here is the last. Well, take your time with this because you have plenty of time. But as our producer just scrolls through pictures of events that Kadesh has been involved in and stuff, my last question, and take your time with it, what do you see Kadesh doing within the next 10 years? And for yourself, what is next for you, Miranda Sanders, the one and only, for the next 10 years? We can stop right there, producer. Let's talk a little bit about that picture.
So you want to talk about the picture first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this picture was our first real photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
The first photo shoot that we did, I believe it was in 17. It was right before the release. It was 2016.
All right.
So it was just fun trying to get all of these young people together and do a photo shoot. But we had a great time. I'm surprised you didn't find the video because there's a video that someone put on there where they were snapping our pictures and we were singing Manifest as well while we were doing it. So we was still ministering even during our photo shoot. It was fun. We had a lot of fun doing the shoot, coming together, hair, makeup. It was a long day, but that picture, when I got these pictures back, it just hit reality for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is happening. Like, this is the truth. This is happening. So,
Wow.
yeah, so great memory for that.
So, what's next for Kadesh? Like, I mean, you know what I say, and this is me talking. I see a Grammy. I see.
Speak it.
I see a Grammy. I see Choir of the Year.
Come on.
I see stuff with this group, and look who's running it though. You got to have that humble and loving spirit, because most of these directors or directors. You didn't give me a new word.
Directress.
But there's some of their spirits is really not right. But you have such a beautiful spirit and stuff, so you know.
Thank you. I'm here to raise the bar because I think female directresses are undervalued. The one thing that I notice is that it's not a lot of us on the national platform.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest, of course, Dr. Maddie Moss Clark. She was one of the greatest. But then to bring it to the generations, that Natalie Wilson, of course, and there's some others that are out there, but not many have made it to a national platform. We spend a lot of time serving in our own churches. So with KADESH, I'm just like any other job. There's a policeman, there's a policewoman. There's a firefighter who's a woman and a man. And I feel like the same thing. In the kingdom of God, we have to have that. There are men directors who have choirs. Why aren't that many females on the national platform to do those things? We are very few that you see with choirs and that are pushed and supported. So I think this is good. And for KADESH, yeah, we're definitely coming for a project in 2019. That is one of our goals, but that's not one of our end goals. That's just the beginning of what we're
I know what you mean. Well, in closing, Miranda, thank you so much for coming, my friend. I appreciate it. You
You're
just made this show
welcome.
awesome. So awesome. Viewers and fans, thank you so much for tuning in. Come back. Yes, our first annual Christmas musical producer. You might as well go on and show that flyer to our fans. Come back December the 26th at 7 o'clock. We have the Tree of Life Singers along with Greater Praise and Deliverance Tabernacle, Mime, and Choir Ministry. I'm your host, Malik Show.